Kevin O'Connor. We bring him on from time to time. So, I made a promise on the air. I said, let's not overreact to game one. Golden State has been off way too long for an offensive team, an offensively driven team, to be off. Like, shooters want to shoot. So outside of Steph, I thought Draymond and Jordan Poole and Wiggins, I thought offensively they were just totally out of sync, which you could get away with, except you're playing the best NBA defense maybe in a decade. So I wasn't shocked by it. I was shocked by Al Horford shooting. Did you come away when that game was over? Was it I can't believe what I just saw moment for you?
For sure, in terms of like how the game played out, the fact that you have the Warriors having their third quarter avalanche, and then Boston comes out in the fourth 7-0 run with Steph Curry off the floor before he returns, not with around 9 minutes 30 seconds left in the game, and it just kept going and going and going in the entire fourth quarter. So in that sense, the fact we see Boston enter the fourth quarter with a double-digit deficit and then win by double digits, in that sense, Colin, it's definitely shocking. But in terms of like how the game played out and the types of performances we saw with Draymond Green and Iguodala as non-threats, the Celtics weren't worried about defending those guys. And the Warriors, on the other hand, they weren't worried about Horford. They weren't worried about Derek White or Smart at times. But those guys can make you pay. Like Draymond's comment after the game about, they're not going to do that again. Maybe they won't shoot that well. Maybe they won't shoot over 70% from three, those guys. But they can make you pay.
Yeah.
Draymond and Iguodala have not yet proven that.
Yeah, Derek White's been hitting big shots all playoffs, so that's not necessarily a shock. And Horford's a 5-time All-Star. One of the things I did take away from last night, and we know this to be almost empirically true, is the NBA refs, when the finals come around, they let you play. They step aside and let you play. It's why a Westbrook or a Harden or a Karl Malone, who kind of needed the whistle, never felt as effective in the playoffs. Well, if the refs are going to let them play like last night, Kevin, that's a big edge for Boston. This is a big physical team. And as I watched it, I thought, I forget how much they let you play in the finals. So I kind of think Boston comes out of that game last night and thinks, guys, we can be more physical. I think it's an edge for Boston. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, we'll see how they call it in game two. We'll know right away, just like we sort of did in that game one. And it was also just refreshing to see these teams be able to play and be aggressive. But I do think you're right, Colin, that is an edge for Boston because, as you said, they had this historic defense this year when league-wide offensive rating is at all-time highs in the second half of the season in February, March, into April. Meanwhile, Boston is this outlier-level defense, and they've maintained it through the postseason, getting through Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and Miami. Three really tough matchups, especially that Milwaukee series. And now in this game one here against Golden State, I feel like they answered a lot of the questions. Like, they have all these no days off for about a 3-week period. They get a little bit of rest, and then suddenly Horford's shooting the heck out of the ball again. Suddenly it seems like they have fresh legs, and now with more days off between games, that's another thing that I think bodes well for Boston here in this series.
It's really interesting. It's funny. Brad Stevens said, listen, I think the players need a new voice. And, a lot of coaches won't do that, so he moved upstairs. Well, people may forget this. He's the guy, the minute he moved upstairs, he went and got Derek White and Al Horford. And Horford's a fascinating player because aesthetically, he's not real vertical. He's not swatting shots. It's not Lob City. I think sometimes people forget just how good Al Horford is, but this is a league where there are style points in the NBA, in the NBA. I think, when you say Horford won't do it again, I think he is just fit. I think his IQ, you've covered Horford many times for years. He's just a unique player in this league. And kind of, if you could, talk a little bit about what he means to Boston and what he's added.
I mean, I think with Al Horford, you think about who he was in Atlanta. He was always a good defensive player. He was always somebody who could play make, and he would hit mid-range jumpers. But the fact that, as it shows on the screen now, him just draining threes. He's now a versatile switch defender, his ability to go out and defend on the perimeter and just, play his role that he needs to for this team with catch and shoots from three, with drives to the basket, with cuts to the basket. He does it all. and he does it at a high level. And I think with Horford here in this Boston series, the difference between him and Draymond, they do a similar thing in their own respective ways with their playmaking with size. But with Horford, he's a threat to shoot. Draymond is a total liability when he's behind the arc. Horford right now looks like the better overall player than Draymond Green, which is saying a lot considering how great Draymond is, considering how sensational he is defensively. But when you have a flaw offensively, when you can't shoot, you can be a liability to your team's success in the half court. Horford is never a liability, no matter the circumstances on the court. And for the Celtics, he is just a vitally important player, especially when they can go to him at the 5 and retain spacing. And they did that in that fourth quarter is one of the reasons why they were able to just turn it around and beat the Warriors.
30, 45 seconds. I said the Warriors in 6. I still like them. I'm not going to take too much from game 1. Your thoughts this morning?
I had the Celtics in 7, and I'll stick to that for now. But the Celtics did answer a lot of the questions that bode well for them, at least moving forward in this series, considering the health, considering the fact they changed up their schemes mid-game, and considering, like you said, they might not shoot over 50% of 3 again, but the way the Warriors were defending them, they're going to have to make some significant adjustments because they can't sag off of Horford and White and Smart like they were.
Okay, Kevin's got a great story on what the Mavs need to add with Luka. Go to the Ringer, read it. Very thoughtful, no surprise. Kevin O'Connor, good seeing you again, Kev.
Appreciate it, Colin.
You bet. Yeah, it's got a really interesting story on what to do with the Mavs because we've talked about this. The idea that you can just throw any good scorer in with Luka, I don't buy that at all. I think you have to draft and develop defensive players, re-sign Jalen Brunson, also not a great defensive player. So, yeah, if you know what a player is, and we know what Luka is, he's never going to be in D-Wade shape, he's never going to be elite defender, then help him in those areas. Let he and Brunson do a lot of the scoring. There's been a lot of rumors about Rudy Gobert. I don't think it's a terrible idea. I don't. All right, that's good stuff. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.